Hello, and welcome back to APTCast, where a panel of experts discuss topics that matter to our clients in the government, commercial and industrial, and energy markets. This is the second and final episode of our Sustainability in Sports series. Be sure to check out the first episode, which covers the pressures on the sports industry to become more sustainable, roadblocks for teams and venues, and an introduction to APTIM's Sustainable Sport Index, or SSI. My name is Greg Butler. I'm the Vice President of Environmental Compliance and Permitting at APTIM. I'm here with Meredith McCurdy, our Director of SSI, and our guest, Orjan Lundberg, a sustainability expert in the sports industry. Okay, let's pick up where we left off. My next question here is, what were the most surprising findings from this year's benchmarking report?
We were really excited to see a lot of growth this year. We had 64% growth in participation, but maybe more importantly, 96% retention over 2022 respondents. So we feel like we're really demonstrating value to our respondents and that they feel that it's important to participate year over year. Maybe not surprising, but we're really pleased to see it. One of the biggest things we saw this year was that dedicated sustainability positions on staff at venues and teams increased to 56% of our participating venues. That's from 24% last year. So it's doubled. That also doubled among our 2022 respondents. So not only our new respondents, but our past respondents. So we're seeing more emphasis on how sustainability should be across the entire organization. We see some other things that are, growing, but maybe less positive right now. So venues are a bit behind in transparency of reporting and that type of thing. It's something we're starting to see in Europe. We're seeing more transparent sustainability and ESG reporting in the sports industry as well. Some of that is because of regulation, but I think we'll start to see it more and more over time. But right now, only 8% of our participating venues produce a public report. And kind of by comparison, 96% of S&P 500 companies are voluntarily publishing ESG reports before there's any requirement for compliance. So I think that as these same companies are the sponsors of venues, they're going to start to align more and want more transparent reporting and opportunity.
Yeah, for me, I think that these are the key findings there for sure. I have to say I was a bit surprised that there was not more stadiums and venues with those beautiful badges, the LEED badges, the WELL badges, the True Zero Waste badges. And this is something that is pretty well defined. I haven't got the numbers like you did with the S&P 500 companies, but if you look at large buildings around the country and around the continent, a lot of them, like high-end buildings, have these badges, at least one of them. And I thought that would be more of those. And I think more of this might be coming over the next few years with more stadiums targeting those type of certifications. I thought the topic on procurement was very interesting as well. There's one of the ways that sports events and sports entities can have a big impact, like really looking into their supply chain, partnering up with their key suppliers on things like merchandise, food and beverage, all different types of things that are being offered inside the stadium. Even the jerseys of the teams, the sports equipment, etc. Long, pretty complicated supply chain sometimes, but this is really an opportunity that is there to be tapped. I think sophisticated, sustainable procurement practices within sports venues.
All right. Well, how about trends? What trends do we see moving forward? Meredith, what do you think about that? What about trends?
Yeah, I think we've got some good trends that are getting some traction. So greenhouse gas emission tracking, goals and reduction planning is on the rise. So just 17% of our SSI respondents last year were doing any greenhouse gas emission tracking, and now it's 39% this year. 20% of established goals. So first you got to track, then set some goals, and 35% are planning to set goals within the next couple of years. So we're seeing that trend increase, that awareness, starting with the tracking. We also have expanded just a little bit into some other topics. As Orjan talked about, we go a little bit beyond the ACE, the energy, waste, and water, into transportation, et cetera. And in 2023, we created a new short section around environmental resilience. And we think there will be a trend towards making some adaptations to make venues more resilient to their environments and also making them a stronger part of their communities, both as an emergency response center, but also perhaps making the community more resilient.
Yeah, nice. And I mean, this is such a big asset in many cities and in many neighborhoods, the stadium and the venue, right? So that can definitely be used like that. I'm seeing, I think I mentioned before, like the badges. I see that's coming. I think that's a trend. Sports venues will go after the lead well and other badges that are well defined and pretty easy to go for, I think. I also see, I mentioned procurement before. I think people will start working on that and getting their head around how can we use our dollar spend for good while still getting what we need in our venues. Another thing that I think is coming might be around this ESG reporting piece, but perhaps a bit broader than that, around an sustainable events management piece. There's some certification standards around that as well, which is really a way to nail down how to identify risks, how to identify opportunities, how to manage those properly, document those, and then report on that and continuous improvement from year to year. The ISO 20012-1 standard is often used for that, which follows a very similar approach to other ISO standards that might be more familiar, such as the quality management system for 9001 and the environmental management system for 14001. But this is a specific one for events. So I think this might be something that is coming going forward. And hopefully we will see upswing in these three categories next year. I guess this is the challenge for this question. The answer will come next year in the next SSI to see how far off Meredith and I was in this prediction. So this is not good.
Stay tuned. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Right. Orjan, if I could have you start with this next question here. So how can our audience contribute to sustainability in sports? Those who work in the sports industry as well as the fans.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting to think about a fan journey. Greg and Meredith and I wake up one morning, we decide to go to a game. We got to figure out how to get there, transportation. We got to figure out what to do when we get there. Or maybe Greg feels like having a hot dog. I might go for a drink. So where does that source from? Where does it come from? And then all of a sudden we end up with some food packaging in our hands. We're going to throw that somewhere. So where does that go? And how is that being treated? And then, at some point we got to maybe go to the gentleman's, and then we will use water and we will flush after ourselves. And then we will enjoy the game, big spotlights on the pitch. And then we will cheer and be merry. And then we have to get back home again. And then the big cleaning process starts in the stadium. So I think throughout the whole sort of event journey and process, there is lots of impact. So that's just from the fan perspective. Just think about what you're doing. What are you consuming? Are you placing it? Are you following the instructions? Are you consuming more? Are you doing something differently that you would do in your everyday life? As a venue organizer, you need to think about all those different aspects and where is things being sourced from? How is it being produced, and where does it go? And then running the building is like, running a building, energy, water, waste, air quality, etc. So I think every step along the journey, there is some impact that can be very big if poorly managed and much smaller if managed properly.
Great. Meredith, anything to add to that?
No, I think I would just echo a few things from that fan perspective too. Of sometimes we don't think about how maybe the little things don't make a difference, but I think they do, especially in your consumer behavior. So like Orjan mentioned, the types of food and drink that you're choosing to participate in, where do we put our waste, making sure it's going in the right waste stream, choosing that types of public transportation. So while we think maybe one person doesn't matter, it really does. And it can change the demand as well, right? The types of food and beverage that the venue decides to provide for you, or how much they engage you in sort of that waste diversion process. Where are you putting your bottle or your can?
How about our listeners? How can our listeners stay informed about, invest in and train their teams on best practices in sustainable sports? What resources are available to our listeners?
Sustainable Sport Index, which is available at no cost to the public to download at sustainablesportindex.com. Keeping in touch with us and others on LinkedIn. Some other great organizations, the Green Sports Alliance has a lot of great content, both on LinkedIn, but as well as playbooks and webinars, conferences, et cetera. Sport Positive in the UK as well. Other resources like the UN Sport for Climate Action Frameworks. So there's quite a bit out there in addition to general sustainability resources. But these are some sport-specific ones that can help build that community and target some of the special challenges and opportunities we have in sport.
Yeah, those are the top ones on the hit list for sure. I quite like reading the sustainability report, which is a website which is specific to sports and sustainability. It covers a ton of different things. The IOC is putting out good material as well with the International Olympic Committee. The European Football Federation is putting out good material recently as well, which is obviously from Europe, but also applicable, I think, for sure, the UEFA guidelines. And then another interesting one to keep an eye on, I think, if you're interested in going a bit more detailed, is some of the major sports entities' sustainability reports. So the large clubs are now producing them, and you can see what is happening there. Recently, Europe introduced a new sustainability reporting legislation for companies in general. This one will see 100 more football clubs producing annual sustainability reports. There is already a ton of them doing it, the big ones, but now with this legislation going down into further details around how big your organization needs to be before you have to disclose on this, they will see 100 additional football clubs reporting this. So there is plenty of material like that. And like Meredith was mentioning before, there's some fun conferences to go to, the Green Sports Alliance Summit, the Sports Positive, etc.
Excellent. Great resources for our listeners to stay informed. So good stuff. Well, Meredith and Orjan, thank you so much for being here today. At APTIM, our mission is to enhance the quality of the environment, well-being of people, resilience of communities, and opportunity for employees to make a difference, not just a living. Come back next time for more APTIM expertise. In the meantime, please subscribe to APTCast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube.